All right, guys, welcome in to the Garden Report post-game edition presented by CarShield. Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning, Josue Pavone. And what a weird freaking game, guys. I mean, my goodness, the again, we talked about it in the post-game show. Our total vibe on this game in the first quarter, heading into the second quarter, was forget about it. This dead men walking. Celtics came out, looked lazy, no heart.
Do you want to read the tweets again?
And here we go again.
Please don't.
We had the explicit messages.
I'm not going through the text messages again. But to a man, we had all written this team off and then just ripped through, certainly in the third, made it a game in the second, ripped through the Heat in the third quarter, fourth, and won it going away.
Yeah,
a really impressive performance. So, I mean, guys, what did we see? What did we see in Game 5? I'm still trying to, figure it all out.
I think you said it. I think it's that third quarter. I'm still shocked about it, to be completely honest. Like, we've been waiting for the Celtics to put together a terrific third quarter for the last two series, and we finally get it. 41 points. You got Jason Tatum going to the rack, getting to the free throw line. I mean, what more could you ask for? That momentum switch that you saw from Miami really pushed them back, and they were never able to truly recover in the fourth quarter. And even in the fourth quarter, with that lead dwindling down to 7 points, the Celtics continue to fight, and that's exactly what it's really boiled down to, the effort. How much do you really want it? The Miami Heat had looked like they wanted it way more than the Celtics. Minus 2 quarters in this game, the Celtics wanted it a little more.
Yep.
Yeah, 41-25. It's such a shocking number for a team that has struggled in the third quarter throughout the playoffs. And the defense there is menacing, forcing turnovers, long stretches of droughts for Miami where they're unable to produce shots in the half court. The Heat look starving for offense in that second half, and that's a bad thing for them because they're searching for players in their rotation now to fill out that fifth spot, sixth and seventh. I mean, they're down to essentially 7 rotation guys right now, and 4 of them are playing good. So the way the Celtics defense has completely gripped the scoring out of that team, I mean, they shoot 19% from 3 in this one. And you see the key. The Celtics aren't turning the ball over here. 11 turnovers in this game. They don't feed that Miami transition attack where they're hitting threes a lot of the time. And, they're not allowing them to get into the matchups that they wanted to. We talked about the switches. And that's Daniel Tice being out there a little bit more tonight and playing great against Bam Adebayo. So 3 things swung drastically in the Celtics' direction tonight. And if those trends continue, suddenly you're starting to feel a little bit better about the series.
Yeah, and I think it was everything you guys said about the second half the Celtics played, but I think you can make the case the Heat lost this game in the first half. I mean, the Celtics played like absolute garbage, and the Heat had, a 7-point lead? I mean, and they didn't have a single play. I mean, you could say, Duncan Robinson was like their offense in the first quarter, but there was nobody on that Heat team that stepped up like they had in previous games, whether it was Dragic, whether it was Hero. Jimmy Butler's kind of just been sort of doing his thing in like a Jimmy Butler way, but he hasn't necessarily taken over any games. And Bam Adebayo had his arguably worst game of the series too.
Definitely.
So there was nobody on the Heat that sort of took the reins like they have in the games that they've won. You certainly didn't get Hero anywhere near what he did to the Celtics in Game 4. So the Celtics came out, and whatever was said in the locker room at halftime resonated with them because they came out completely different team. The first half, they were hoisting threes. 8 of their first 9 shots were 3-point shots. In the second half, you saw guys like Tatum getting to the line, getting fouled, driving to the hoop. I thought Jaylen Brown was consistently aggressive throughout the game. And that sort of set the tone. And again, the Celtics, when they played their style of basketball, we even heard Brad Stevens, the cameras caught Brad Stevens say it in the huddle in the third quarter. The first time I've seen the Celtics basketball in the last few games. So I think that's what you saw.
Yeah, what's amazing, too, this was like a very anti-Celtics game. It kind of went in reverse of what we've been used to seeing, which is Celtics get a lead, let another team hang around when that team's not playing well, had a chance to put it away, and they just didn't. And the Celtics, as you said, Miami missed an opportunity to really create distance here, and then bang, 22-5 third quarter. They flipped the script so quickly in that third quarter, and then they never looked back. I mean, you got to 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, boom, gone. That was it. I mean,
Just like that,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
they-
how many
they-
guys
they-
were a
they-
little concerned when they got it down to 7? You know, like the
Yeah,
Celtics,
right at the beginning of that fourth
so many
quarter.
leads. It's like they've blown a double-digit lead in every game this series. What's a 7-point lead to the Celtics now? But again, the difference was the effort on defense, and I just think that the Miami Heat could never find that momentum, and foul trouble was huge as well. It wasn't just Jason Tatum. You know, these guys were drawing fouls, and then the Miami Heat were completely frustrated, and their heads were out of the game. And then some of them were literally out of the game. Dragic, that was a big one. He picked up his 6th foul.
Yeah, and that's a
Got him.
recipe of the tightening rotation too. They didn't have the guys to go through to mellow out that foul trouble as they did earlier in the series.
Yeah. I still want to address that at the beginning of that game. But first, I just want to tell people at home the segment's presented by CarShield, America's #1 auto protection agency. Call 800-CAR-6000, mention the code BEAT, or visit carshield.com. Use code BEAT to save 10%. Now, guys, just jumping back into that
CarShield.
start, why? Again, it's fine. You
addicted.
escape it, but it's the same thing. Like, you know, it's not sustainable. Like, why did they do it again? You know, again, the formula for success, they laid a blueprint in game 3 that if you play that way and attack, you can control this game and the pace of the game and really do things at will. And then you came out in game 4 and they just absolutely were brutal in that. And it started with Tatum at the top. And then you expect, okay, certainly they're not going to do the same exact freaking thing in game 5. And they were worse. It was worse.
Yeah.
It was worse. It was the worst quarter, the worst first quarter they've played. And Tatum was awful again. I mean,
Yeah.
It was so hard to look at that quarter and not start thinking about the offseason.
yeah, it was like we were done. And
their bags were packed as far as I was
Fine.
concerned.
The story of the game isn't the first quarter. The story of the game is that they turned it around and ripped through the Heat and it got right back in the series. But it will be the story if they do this again, and they do it because it's not sustainable. Josue, you talked about it. Like, you can't get away with this over and over again.
No, you can't win a series this way. You can win a game, but you're not going to win a series this way, especially against the Miami Heat. I mean, they've been outplaying the Celtics all series long.
Right.
You know, we're going on and on about the third quarter, fourth quarter, sure, but let's face it. I think we give this one to Miami, and I don't care if it's it's 500 or what was it? I think they had the exact same point total after game 4.
Yeah.
Still, no, it's a different series. That's not an indicator of
441 or
what
something
we've
like
been
that.
seeing. Yeah, exactly.
I just picture like Brad Stevens having like a great game plan going into this one and like attack, and then the first couple of minutes he's just like, oh God, like
Yeah.
no, don't do
Well,
this.
He was yelling at him. He was on his feet.
That's when he puts in
Yeah.
Tyson Grant and starts doing all these experimental things that he's been doing. And the shocking thing is, this is why I'm not as tough on that, is the Heat don't take advantage in that position. They win that first quarter by 8. And you look at it and you're like, how'd they not build a 15-point lead here, 20-point lead? It's like what we were talking about with some
got
of
down
those.
to 4 in that quarter, and they played like dog shit. They shot
And
5
a lot of that had to
20.
do with
The
Duncan
Celtics-
Robinson.
The Celtics won the second quarter and they didn't even play good in it. So the Heat are just in here like, we can win this game by default.
The
We can
Celtics
come
had
back.
one field goal, and it was like they were 7 minutes in. You know, it was
Right.
unbelievable.
The announcers were like, what's going on with this
Yeah.
Celtics team right now?
Yeah, 3
And then
straight threes.
The Heat
All
did the same
misses.
thing in the third quarter. It's that number 5. They got stuck on 5 points for so long. That's what happened to the Celtics in the first quarters. So I really do wonder if the narrative in Miami is that, which is like, well, I can't have third quarters like that, or
There's no narrative in Miami. Nobody actually
nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Right.
Well, when it comes to the team, they've been worried about their slow starts on their own end too, and they were only averaging 22 points per game, losing every first quarter for a while. So they're like, we can't just come back every game. They did it in games 1, 2, and 4, and here they couldn't get it done. It's coming back to bite them, and they're concerned on their end.
Yeah,
I think this sets the tone big time for Game 6, man. Like, I know it's so cliche to say it, but I really think for this Celtics team in this series, they have to get out to a big start in the first quarter. Again, I'm not looking for like a 20-point lead, but you have to sort of build some sort of,
more
set the
closing
tone.
than finishing.
And if the Celtics can sustain that for the first time, it feels like the entire playoffs, or maybe I'm exaggerating here, for at least the series, if they can sustain that all game long, we're going to get a Game 7, guys. I think it's that simple.
I
all
think
game
Joe
long.
Sway,
Yeah, sure.
the Celtics worry me like hell with a lead because they don't know what to do with prosperity. They start to get relaxed, and that's how they let teams back into it all the time. I think the
Game
only
four.
times when this works on those nights where they're just unconscious and just dropping threes from all over, then there's just no getting back into it. But otherwise, when they do that and then they start to settle for shots and they lapse on the effort is when they let teams back in. I hate the early lead Celtics. I hate that team.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they did in Game 4. And, think of the end of Game 4. It's a perfect example of that, John. All of a sudden, there's 1 minute left. They're like, oh, we're down 9. They string together 3 perfect possessions. They get a couple calls their way, and all of a sudden, they lose a game that they were completely out of by only 3. Like, when the urgency ramps up for them, and tonight's another example of that, they just come out and pound the other team. 121 points tonight.
But it really did. The energy was so different from one from one moment to the next. It was like you could see it in everybody. Just the way they were moving. It was completely different vibe.
It's almost a microcosm of this series and really of the playoffs, right? I mean, you don't know what team you're going to get at any given moment. I mean, the Celtics could come out and blow the Heat out of the water in Game 6, or they could come out like they did in Game 4 and just piss everybody off. And then we're saying, well, there goes the inconsistent Celtics. They deserved everything they get. So it's kind of like this team's MO right now. Consistency has been their biggest issue.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about Game 6 and what the Celtics need to do there, which is coming up on Sunday night. But until then, Josue Pavone, Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning. Again, this segment presented by CarShield. Call 800-CAR-6000. Mention the code BEAT or visit carshield.com. Use the code BEAT to save 10%. Thanks for watching.